So this is the initialization code in the CRUD application using the PDO interface. The PDO interface is the one that I chose for this application, so this is the code that I actually use and maintain. Here's where the connection to the database happens, and it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit different than the interface from the MySQLi interface. It creates a new PDO object using the new, and it names that object DBH, which is the traditional name for a database handle. And it uses this string for initializing the database. This is a carryover from the Perl interface that PDO is based upon. It's called DBI in Perl. It's very common, very popular, and it works with multiple different databases here. So you specify which database you're using. In this case, it's MySQL. This will work with Postgres or with Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server or all kinds of different databases using the same code. You specify your host, you specify your database name, and we use the constant MySQL DB from that's initialized at the top of the code. And your username and password that are also constants initialized at the top of the code. And here we specify that we're going to use the persistent connections. So persistent connections are a valuable feature. And here's what a persistent connection is. Whenever somebody clicks on a web page, or they move from one page to another within the same site and within the same session, that click creates a whole new connection between the web browser and the web server. Now, under normal circumstances, that would create a new instance of your program. Your program would have to set up its database connections and then destroy the database connections at the end of the program, which is just when they click on another page. Now, this is resource intensive. It uses a lot of resources to create and destroy all of these database connections, which slows things down and makes things seem sluggish. So instead, with a persistent connection, what happens is that the web server manages a pool of connections. And every time somebody clicks on a page, one of those connections can be reused. It's handed off to the program. They can use that existing connection, and then the connection goes back in the pool when they're done with it. This saves time, it saves resources, it makes your application feel snappier to the user, and it improves the user experience. So we're using these persistent connections, and PDO makes these persistent connections readily available without depending upon a particular driver for MySQL or for whatever database. So this is how the database connection is created, and it's very simple. This is the simple code in the initialization section of the CRUD application using PHP and MySQL.